Hello friends, I just wanted to share a thought with you from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 3, where Samuel, who's living in the temple with Eli, and it says at the beginning of chapter 3 that the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There were no frequent visions. And Samuel has gone to bed, he's asleep, and yet he hears God call him. And this happens 3 times, and each of those 3 times Samuel gets up and goes to Eli and says, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli says, "I didn't call you, go back to bed." And then God calls a 4th time. Now, there are 2 things really that stuck out to me when I read this recently. And one is how many times it took before Eli realized that it was God, that it was Yahweh that was speaking, and how we can fail to hear God and to realize that God is speaking to us. It took the 3rd attempt for Eli to say, maybe that's God. When you go back to bed, if he calls again and say, "Speak, your servant's listening." And I just think there are so many times when God does speak to us, when he tries to talk to us, but we don't hear, we don't realise that it's him speaking. So I want to encourage you to be on the lookout, to have your ears open, that maybe what you're hearing is God calling to you. And it may be a repeated verse that you hear several times throughout the week, throughout the day. Maybe it's something someone says and it's confirmed by another experience. God will speak to us in different kinds of ways, and maybe you need to listen because maybe you haven't realised that God is speaking to you. And with that, right within this passage, when Samuel goes back to bed and God calls to him the 4th time, and it says in the ESV translation here, in verse 10, "And then Yahweh came and stood, calling as the other times, 'Samuel, Samuel.'" Now there's a word in this translation, taken directly from the original Hebrew, that really I just hadn't noticed before. And Yahweh came and stood there and called Samuel's name. God stands with us. He's here with us. He stands beside you. He goes before you. He is there behind you. God came and stood there. He stands and he calls your name. Try and hear what God is saying to you today.